Welcome to Midcard Maniacs. I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And today we're going to be talking about Bray Wyatt being released from WWE. So a few months back, we saw that Bo Dallas, his brother, was released. That seemed to be expected. But Bray Wyatt, the Fiend himself, being one of the most marketable things in WWE.
There have been moments where it wasn't his fault, it was the stories that he was involved in, but he even made that John Cena versus the Fiend wrestling match at WrestleMania. That was a blast during the pandemic. It wasn't even a match, it was just a story. And that's the one thing Bray Wyatt was fantastic at, was telling stories. I was always engaged and entertained, and when The Fiend came out, it was something refreshing. And WWE they just didn't know how to handle it. They should have let him be him.
And it's so strange considering that he brought Alexa Bliss into the fold, turned her into what she is now. She's got her little Lily, and then they let Bray Wyatt go. That blows my mind. Now, maybe this is all a work. They let Bray Wyatt go, but the Fiend is here forever.
That's just, they play this whole we're going back to the 90s where the Undertaker is actually not a person. His name isn't Mark.
Exactly. So this is what could be happening. I don't think that's true. I'd like to know what do you think Alexa Bliss does from here, because her story pivots on the Firefly Funhouse.
I think they're just gonna let her have her playground and ignore the whole idea of the Firefly Funhouse, because they're building this whole thing up with her and Nikki Cross, or Nikki Ash, whatever you want to call her, for SummerSlam, for Bliss to obviously take the title.
But is she gonna continue the dark stuff?
Yeah, because she's into horror and all that stuff. This is right up her alley.
Yeah.
She's loving life. If the Fiend didn't exist, I'm sure at some point she would want to do something like this.
Yeah, and she was basically Harley Quinn before, and now it's just throw in some white contacts and continue being creepy and weird. This is a huge loss for WWE, to be honest, because he's an amazing talent. Everything that he's done has transformed entire parts of WWE's history.
From the days of Husky Harris straight through to to Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family to the Fiend.
The Wyatt family was insane. When the lights go out and you've got all the Fireflies in the crowd, everyone's got their phones, it creates complete atmosphere. Bray Wyatt, just regardless of what he's doing, can capture the audience's attention because of how creative he is. Where does he go? What does he do? I have no idea. What would I like him to do? Maybe go with Decay over on Impact, but I feel like he's such a bigger star, and I know the default is always go to AEW and do this, and slowly, AEW becomes inflated with a lot of WWE wrestlers, but I'm actually okay with it. Obviously, being an AEW mark, I'm fine with it because I know that would bring a shit ton of viewers over to AEW, but for good reason, because you have good talent. I think Bray could fit in there if they rolled him in with Abaddon. He could almost create something dark and sinister like that with Abaddon and maybe Ryzen, which I've always wanted Ryzen and Abaddon to be together. I think that could really work, and I would really like to see Bray Wyatt have complete creative control over whatever that dark faction would be.
And you could go in multiple directions if he does go the AEW road. I mean, we have the whole Malachi Black thing where that's going to be the more sinister side of storytelling. But Bray Wyatt doesn't have to go back as the Fiend. He could come back as the Wyatt family, which would be an interesting story against the Dark Order, where he's starting to recruit and build his faction. And then you kind of have that history with Brody Lee, who was a part of the Wyatt family, and the Dark Order, and how important Brody Lee was to them, where you have the two sides of recruiting family members and things like that. The Dark Order being the face, and the Wyatt family, or whatever they want to call him, going against them.
If Bray Wyatt did debut in AEW, I think I would like to see him not go on a big win streak like everybody else. He's the type of person who can build a character from being pushed to the ground. Let him lose. Go on a massive loss streak. You look at every single person that's ever debuted in AEW, it's put him on a streak, give him the Peter Avalon, give him the fucking Brandon Cutler effect for a while, and let him get dark and dark and dark, and then he becomes something, obviously not the Fiend because it's probably owned by WWE, but he could become something else.
I mean, also he could reunite with Matt Hardy. They had their moments, especially when Matt will bring back the Broken Universe. But AEW aside, honestly, I would love to see Bray Wyatt go to New Japan and continue with the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse. For some reason, I feel the audience there would eat that up.
Yeah, and it's something completely unique that they don't really have right now, right? Who's the most evil person there? Maybe Evil? Very telling.
How funny would it be if you went to Ring of Honor and joined Danhausen?
And you know what? I wouldn't even put it past him too, because he's just like a fun guy. Like, he's a really likable, nice dude. And him doing kind of like a dark side with Danhausen would be hilarious. And of course, Ring of Honor would be like, yes, please. Everybody is gonna want Bray Wyatt. Not only because of like the legacy involved, but because he's just really great with the creative side. I'm really excited to see what he does next. I can't really picture him on the indies.
You know what would be really fun? If him and Bo Dallas debuted in Impact or AEW as a tag team together as these like brothers, like, because they're legit brothers, but they just come out as like the Rotundos or whatever. Like,
fuck that.
No,
I hate Bo Dallas.
Couple of IRS men just walking out there looking like the right to censor, just in their white shirts and suspenders and ties. I would love a right to censor of Bray and Bo. Bray would kill it because he's a personality, and Bo being that guy in the suit with the smile, be like, we're gonna do this, we deserve better, because like it's like cancel culture stuff. We're gonna cancel everything until we get what we want.
I can see that happening in either side, to be honest. Like, if it was Impact, if it was AEW, it could work. AEW, go with Mark Sterling. If it's Impact, the two of them could just come out, and I think it would be hilarious. And maybe even Caleb with a K would be like, me to Neil Dashwood, and you guys, let's go. It's basically like the Robert Stone kind of dealio. I don't even care where he goes. I'm going to watch him because he's great, and he's going to create awesome things. So whichever company actually gets a hold of Bray Wyatt is gonna get a lot of new fans, definitely. Where do you think Bray Wyatt is gonna go? Impact, AEW, ROH, New Japan, MLW. Where? Let us know in the comments, like this video, and share your thoughts on any of this. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything here on Midcard Maniacs.